Oh, hey, it's you again. Welcome back to the Black Pill. 2019 was my last visit to China. Um, Hopefully not my last, but the last one since now. Um, I have just a couple of stories from that 2019 visit. The first one, I don't know if it'll mean anything to you. It means a lot to me. I've thought about this dozens of times since then. I've written numerous times about the Chengdu earthquake. In many ways, my life has spun out from that event in 2008. I wasn't there. I didn't suffer. But my friend Mark Yang took us there on a Helping the Helpers trip in '09 that formed deep, lasting connections all around. My understanding of existential psychology centers around the stories those relief workers told, including, of course, the now legendary psychology is dog shit speech. I was in Chengdu as part of this latest adventure. The first night I slept through a magnitude 5 earthquake. I was the only one. I was the only one. My friend, I'm autistic. I need a guide to do simple things like ride planes. You know, I seem perfectly intelligent, and at the same time, get lost really easily. So my friend uh, traveled with me all across the country. You know, it was really cool for my partners in China to have that much consideration. Anyway, my friend was awake and he told a story of earthquake drills in school. We're riding the elevator down in the morning, and he says, "You know, last night there was an earthquake." And I'm like, "Hmm." You know, and he says that in school when he was little there would be earthquake drills, you know, once a week, once a month, whatever. And he heard in those drills that you have about 15 seconds to clear a building when you feel the tremor. Our room was on the 6th floor. He was afraid, but there was no point in running for the exit. You know, you're not getting out in 15 seconds. So life or death were just totally arbitrary, out of his hands. And he just, you know, the earthquake started and he just sat there, you know, in his feelings, I guess hoping not to die. And there was not a thing he could do about it. He told that story with a laugh. He told that story with a laugh, but I didn't see any humor in it. I thought the laughter to be defensive. I remember earthquake drills too in California. Those took on new dimensions in 1989 when an earthquake killed people and did a ton of damage, including collapsing the decks of a bridge my dad used to drive to work on. I remembered those drills and sort of thanked the fates that I, at that time, was living in Britain. We went to work, we went to the counseling center to start our work therapy demos. When we got there, though, I felt this wave of sadness. I looked around the room, and there were people talking at high volume, boisterous, even raucous, laughing and joking, and my grief intensified. I skipped the usual introductions, just posed the question. Look, I feel sad, but I don't have any reason for sadness. You guys are laughing. There's this earthquake in the place where 11 years ago an earthquake killed 100,000 people, you know, many of them children. Is there something happening? Is there something happening here right now? And the laughter stopped. There's one defensive comment. A woman said, "I don't fear death," you know, very bravely. But then they got down to the work. Around the room, each person admitted to the dread that they felt, the helplessness. Just like my friend James, his English name, James. Fear for their families, faraway sisters, nearby children. One mother called her adult daughter just to say she was fine and she's alive, and find out, that you're fine and you're alive too. Just to hear each other's voices. Like my friend, they knew that their laughter had been a defense, and under that laughter there was this angst, dread, and under that was this grief for the thousands of people who had died in Chengdu not long before. The energy cleared. I no longer felt those tears threatening. Later that night, another friend dropped in to visit. Whenever we're doing this work, he has a way of showing up. He was just a student like me in 2009. He wasn't an existentialist back then, but he taught me about existential psychology through deeds and commitment. If I have a video called Psychology is Dog Shit, he's the guy I'm talking about in that video. And he's sort of a little known cultural hero. Anyway, I have my own deep feelings about Chengdu and that 2008 earthquake, all acquired through working with this friend. We've published together on the topic. I got to see him for just 2 hours, but it was worth it. Anyway, this stuff is why I keep going back. These folks, they praise my authenticity and courage, but they shared this deep existential dread with me, having known me for exactly 1 minute. More than that, I showed up and called them on bullshit. And rather than go to the defensive, they owned up, confronted the scary thing, with this big, hairy, giant stranger. I've always said there is no point taking existentialism to China. It's like taking salt to the ocean. The other story about China. The other story. Remember, this is 2019, and we're still, at that time, in the tail end of the Trump administration. This friend, James, his Western name is James. He helped me get from Beijing to Chengdu. We were sitting in the airport eating dumplings, and conversations turned to Hong Kong and Macau. I just mentioned that Hong Kong isn't very happy about being part of China. He says he saw a news report about happiness parades. Happiness parades in Hong Kong right around June 4th. Context, I guess. June 4 is a demonstration day about the Tiananmen Square uprising and down putting, the photograph that's out there of the young college man stands in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square. That they have this big demonstration, pro-democracy demonstration. I've been in the middle of it, and it is tense, man. 100,000 people in like a 2 square block area, and just mad as, And my friend James from the mainland, he's telling me about happiness parades around June 4. The June 4 protests were pretty intense that year, James has no idea, because the news just covered something else. This is called happy talk. In the study of fascism and fascist governments, happy talk, everything's fine, it's all good, the job numbers are wonderful. Meanwhile, everything's collapsing. You just don't cover the collapses and say everything's good. We had a long conversation about this. Propaganda is everywhere. In America, we have state TV. Fox is Trump state TV. But in China, they have no other sources of information. Russia's in the same boat. Just the last 2 days, it's been this Wagner group and Prigozhin storming up through Russia like they're going to march into Moscow, and then suddenly turning back around. And what the hell happened there it's really hard for us on this side to even know what happened, never mind what it means. How much harder for the Russian citizens whose news is carefully curated. So I had this long conversation about it. You know, something happens that you don't like, and you're the Chinese government. Just stage another event. You know, there's demonstrations and pro-democracy demonstrations over here. You know, here's your Communist Party happiness parade. We're so happy to be part of China. And then you just cover this one, and this one, the people who were there know, but they can't prove to anyone else it ever happened. What happened next was, we got on a plane and we rode for a few hours, and then we're coming down into Chengdu. As the flight came in, over the speaker system, they played this little canned announcement. You know, welcome to Chengdu. Chengdu is famous for its spicy food, is the home of the giant panda, is the happiest city in China. My friend and I just looked at each other. An exchange of looks. You know, I'm not there to change minds or agitate or anything like that. As long as we have the Republican Party largely in charge of the U.S., even when Democrats hold majorities in, has the presidency and the Senate, Republicans are largely in charge around here. And as long as that's the case, I mean, I don't feel like there's a lot of room to criticize other countries for the way their governments operate or sometimes fail to operate. But here's one man slightly more aware of reality, and I just hope that's a win. So that's 2 China stories. I hope they mean something to you. Black Pill out.